Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am delighted to welcome you to talk about digital data strategies to support community retailers. Absolutely a very timely topic and a critical one for economic developers everywhere. My name is Elisa Sklar, and I'm the VP of Marketing at GIS Planning. I'm glad to welcome you here today. Let's talk about different ways to support community retailers. I know when we working with our clients all over the world, one of the things that we're hearing more than ever is this absolutely critical need to work with your community retailers. That includes food service, restaurants, bars, but also the retail outlets, and particularly with a focus on the small and medium-sized independent retailers that don't have the cash reserves or the wherewithal or the ability to hire consultants in order to help weather restrictions because of the pandemic, and that this has really been a hugely important issue for them. We're hearing from economic developers who normally focus most of their time on foreign direct investment are now shifting to consider, of course, the existing business as well. Nobody wants to see those main street shops shuttered. And we also recognize that a hefty percentage of our employment comes from these retail areas. So we want to make sure that that is something that we can help protect. We know that retail is central to the economic vitality of any community. Prior to the pandemic, we knew that there were 29 million retail workers in the US, plus that supported more than 42 million jobs, and that was about 5.5% of the US GDP. We know that brick and mortar retail, although many people even before the pandemic liked to say that it was dead, we did not believe that was true. In fact, what we saw when we looked more closely is that this sector was really just evolving because of the challenges of a digital marketplace. And that's something that has been accelerated by the pandemic. We'll talk about that in a moment. In 2019, we saw a rise of 3.8 to 4.4% for retail in 2019. Now, there's no question the pandemic slowed things down in the US. It didn't stop things, however. In Q3 of last year, we still saw an overall rise of about 2.8% in the US. In Canada, we saw a pretty sizable jump back up in retail. Over 7% is what we were looking at in the Q3 in 2020 in Canada. So definitely we're seeing that kind of change. One of the interesting things we've seen with the pandemic is that, of course, it's had this massive impact on these small and medium-sized retailers. And the estimates are that it's triggered about 10 years worth of organic online sales growth to happen in the 9 months since everything shut down or changed so dramatically last March. And that means that we're seeing independent retailers, the small and medium-sized retailers, shifting to online spaces just because they've been absolutely forced to do that. And that's going to have a far-reaching and long-ranging impact. Some other things that we saw as kind of shifts in retail, and some of this predates the pandemic as well, is the growth of the micro trip. So that means that people wouldn't just necessarily go out shopping, but they might go to pick up a very specific item that they saw profiled in a TikTok video or somewhere online. The pre-order physical visit. So you don't see that so much during the pandemic, but this is definitely a feature where people would maybe purchase something online, but they wanted to hold it in their hands or see it up close. So before they went to purchasing it, they might go into a shop and look at it and then evaluate. Maybe they would purchase it from that shop's website, maybe not. Maybe they would go to a national retailer. The other thing that we saw before the pandemic that I expect will be a big boom after restrictions are loosened and more people are vaccinated is experiential shopping, is people who just go out shopping because the shopping trip or experience is so important, or because the retailers have created this kind of experience. So an example that I think of, for example, here is we've got a chain of tea outlets, David's Tea. They're beautiful stores, although of course a number of them have shut down. That since the pandemic, many are still open. And they were sensory experiences. They were beautiful. They were places where consumers might go and, take pictures of themselves to post online because the shop itself was very interesting. Restaurants made me think of that as well. There is a poke bowl restaurant in my community that's got this gorgeous brick wall with plants on it and a swing that people could sit on. So even if you were going to get pickup, it was a place to sit and then a place to take pictures and check in online. So that experiential aspect to shopping it's not entirely new. We definitely saw that in the past, but became more and more important. And I predict that after the pandemic, as people are so happy to go back to connecting with other people in public spaces, that will be important again. Now, for independent retailers, there's no question that the shift to online was a huge shift. So retailers who might never have had websites before suddenly recognized that in an era of curbside pickup or delivery, they absolutely had to. And there was this rush to get websites produced for them so that they could continue having connections with consumers. And then you saw simultaneously this kind of curbside pickup. I know right here, I live in Montreal, we are in a lockdown right now with a curfew, and although it's essential services only, most stores are still allowed to have this curbside pickup where you can't go into the store, but you go onto the website, you order what you want, you could also call them, and then you go down and pick it up. And contactless payment is another option, paying online or just tapping a credit card without having to press any buttons. At the same time, you see this huge proliferation of delivery service providers. So Instacart, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Corner Shop, there's many of them that basically institute themselves as middlemen between these independent retailers or restaurants and the consumers themselves. Now, often these smaller, medium-sized restaurants can't afford or don't want to deal with the delivery aspect of their business. These middlemen merchants, of course, the delivery providers often take pretty hefty cuts or slices of the purchase itself. So for some restaurants or some retailers, it may actually prove to be less viable way to stay open. But interesting as we see the market start to shift, what that actually means for them. And I'm interested to hear, of course, if you have other things that you've observed in your area or your region as ways in which retailers are trying to adapt, struggling to adapt, or coming up with creative solutions to do that. I think that would be really important as well. One other one that I would note that I think is quite interesting is seeing collaboration between independent retail merchants in an area. So maybe that is a supply issue. Instead of ordering supplies for, a coffee bar, instead of ordering their supplies from a retailer, maybe they were shifting to someone from the neighborhood to get the milk that they needed, or else collaborating together to offer specials, ways to direct a consumer once they've come to one business, that you could hopefully direct them to the neighbors. Every retailer has an interest in seeing the retailers around them on that street survive, because of course those shuttered storefronts and businesses have a very detrimental impact on the consumer experience, and we're looking to avoid that as much as possible once the pandemic slows down and we're able to return to some new kind of normal. Now, I know there have been a number of government programs as well for retailers. So part of this is also kind of getting that data to the consumers themselves and that information. We'll talk about that again in a moment. So I'm going to talk about some of the different ways that we can assist offered strategies to help these small, medium-sized retailers make decisions, and then we'll go back and take a look at some marketing aspects of this as well. So part of what we do at GIS Planning is we provide these online data tools that are business options for businesses and investors to make decisions. Often they can't go into your office because they're busy running their business during normal office hours. Maybe it's the middle of the night, maybe it's a Sunday afternoon before they get a chance to go online to look for information that they need. So these are some tools that help them to do those things better, and it's a way to provide that service to them. So let's take a look at them. So obviously choosing locations is one of them. A business is making a location decision. They're choosing communities first, and then they're choosing the actual facility, warehouse, or retail location second. And so some of the reasons that they might actually choose this particular community or space is either because the owners, the workers live there, they see opportunities for success, something about that neighborhood or that street that connects them to their consumers or their target market. The community communities offer the right mix for potential growth, the market, the talent, the workforce, the vibe, and those intangibles, that it's just a good place to locate for live, work, play reasons, sense of place, nostalgia, connect with them. So we see lots of creative strategies. I love this one from Scottsdale, doing their swipe right for Scottsdale, which is obviously aimed at a younger workforce, but also attracting new firms to the area, encouraging to give them a closer look. So one of the different examples that I'll be showing you of ways in which that location-based decision can be targeted in marketing campaigns. So once your retailers decide which community they want to be in, they'll then be looking for ideal locations. And a question to ask yourself, of course, is how retailers can find ideal properties in your communities. And the example that you can see here lets people make decisions based using all of the data, but then seeing the sites and buildings put in there. So it's just a rich place to do that kind of research. In this particular example, the state of Connecticut is prioritizing opportunity zones, retail locations and opportunity zones. And in fact, the state of Maryland has just actually launched a new opportunity zone finder that is very similar to this, but they also list businesses. So they're businesses that people could purchase or invest in, as well as properties that they can locate in. So if you're looking to purchase an existing business, then that is a great way to do that. Then the second thing, in addition to location analysis, of course, is connecting consumers with the businesses themselves. And this is something that became absolutely critical during the pandemic. So we were able to launch this brand new tool called Zoom Business in April of this past year. And what makes it so interesting, and I'm going to take us over so we could take a look at what that actually is like, is that their intention was, look, our businesses are really struggling right now. People are looking to find them. Let's say I'm in Fayette, Georgia, and I want to find a pharmacy or a restaurant. So I can use this filter to pinpoint exactly where they are in the community, and I can go down there. I can open something about, let's say I want to look at details about this particular business. They could put all that information in there. There's a gift card program. Who can you actually contact? And that just makes it so much easier to be able to do that. The website for the business can be put directly in there. And one of the things that people really loved about this new Zoom Business program is that the businesses can add themselves. So you just click on add a business over there, and it brings them over to a field where the businesses can put that information in there. It'll go back to the economic developer to vet afterwards, so you can actually approve. The businesses can also then get a way to go back in and edit as things change over time. But it really makes it very, very easy for you to be able to support those businesses, because they can put themselves in there. Now, if you have a list of businesses yourself in the admin in the back end as economic developers, there is a place using a spreadsheet template that you could just batch add lists and lists of businesses. You can also search health facilities within the area. So if that's something that's of interest, that's a great thing to put in there. And one of the things that we're seeing with Zoom Business, I mean, it really was very, very popular. We had over 90 of them implemented at this point in the US and Canada, is that this now gives the economic developers a chance to have this rapport, these listings with the businesses in your area. A lot of economic development organizations didn't have that before. Even chambers of commerce, they might have lists of their members, but this is a chance for the businesses to get free profiling for themselves, and for a way for the economic developers directly on their website to be able to showcase what are the businesses in the area. Now, we've given Zoom Business away for free to all existing GIS planning clients, but it's extremely affordable for a low price for anyone else who isn't a client for our other tools like Zoom Prospector. So this is just, again, it's that connection piece. It's visual. It's something you can put on your website, and it's a way to show that you're supporting those businesses, because we recognize that they're really the lifeblood of our area economy. Other kinds of data that you want to think about that are really important to assist your area businesses. I'm just going to maximize this over here. We call these the musts of economic development data. And we know that for your businesses to take advantage of them, it's really important that you be able to do this from in a variety of ways. So businesses are looking for data that helps them make decisions. It has to, of course, be accurate and up to date. It obviously needs to be customized to your location. So if you've got, small business administration, rough data for the state or a county, it doesn't help, or for nationwide, it's certainly not going to help the business in your community make their own decisions about what it is they're trying to do. Robust, that means you want to have as many different variables as possible that you can offer them. It needs to be relevant to their needs. So, mapping out all the manhole covers in town isn't terribly helpful to them, but if you can show them where all the shoe stores in town are, well, that's really useful if you are also a shoe store, or if you're looking to be near other consumer apparel retail outlets. Interactive and dynamic, and that's because you don't know what questions people are going to bring to the site, but you do know that they want to be able to roll up their sleeves and look at that as they get through there. So giving them the opportunity to have interactive data is just so important. Granular, that means that you're showing them things at the regional level, but also letting them drill down and look at what's happening in their zip code, what's happening in their block group, so that they can make informed decisions in that way, the hyper-local and the hyper-regional. Visual, obviously, you want to be able to put things into maps, into graphs, into charts, so that people can see things at a glance rather than having to pour through long, text and tables, which makes things a lot harder to see. Easy to export or share. If you're a small business owner and you see something that's useful to you, you want to be able to click on a share button that brings people back to the report, or you can download it as a PDF, you can send it an email, or you can share it on social media directly from the tool itself. And of course, for you, you want it to be easily tracked and analyzed, because you want to be able to go back and see, okay, what businesses are on our website? What is it they're doing? So that you can have this kind of proof that you are able to offer them information that's useful to them. And if you see from your website data that you're not getting visits from your area businesses, well, that's something you need to think about. Do you need to do more marketing and outreach to them? Or is it that they can't find it on your website, or that they're not aware that you even exist? And then look for ways that you can actually solve that problem. And then, of course, mobile friendly. People are on their phones and their tablets. If you are not offering interactive data tools that are fully featured, because some of them say they're mobile responsive, but they don't have maps or they're missing reports, it's be fully featured and mobile friendly so that they can get in there, whatever device they're using, and look for the information you're offering. Now, relevant free retail data can be really tricky to find. There are some data sources. Some of them are for free and some of them are not. So obviously you can go through raw data that needs to be filtered and represented. That's work for your team in your office. US Census Bureau, Small Business Administration. There are lots of places where you can find this information, but it's pretty dense and it's not all that easy to make sense of, certainly not for the retailers themselves. So other examples here for in the US and Canada: Economic Research Federal Reserve Bank, ICSC, Retail Council of Canada, Indeed got some interesting stuff, specific retail information. Some other ones that I thought that we provide are intelligence components, which we can put directly on your page. This offers data that people can drill down into on consumer spending. Data is particularly interesting. If you've got a food provider and they're trying to figure out where in town people are spending money, or maybe there's opportunities because there aren't any businesses there, then these tools let them go down and drill that into it. So examples of just what that might actually look like. And you can see this is really pretty granular. This lets people get down at a pretty local area to see, neighborhood by neighborhood, what actually expenditures look like. Size Up LBI down there on the bottom, another fantastic source for that you can put on your website that has information for small and medium-sized businesses on all kinds of data variables so that they can do research that helps them benchmark themselves against the competition and figure out places to advertise and make decisions during the time that they actually have. Another example over there that you can take a look at from Volusia in Florida that lets you map out businesses in a particular area. Here we're looking specifically at retail businesses in that neighborhood. Each one of those dots is a business. You can click on them and and get information and do analysis around that specific business and zoom in if you choose to do that. So really a snapshot for the sector that you might be profiling. Retail business owners, they actually are looking for specific information. I'll give you some examples of the kinds of information you might see here. Databases of available properties if they're making location decisions. They want to be able to map out their suppliers and their competitors, something that we can do with our tools, Zoom Prospector, intelligence components, that let them actually see where all those things are. They want to look at consumer spending data and projections so they can make decisions. Of course, they want to see demographic data for target markets so that they can understand in the different neighborhood sectors projections for the next 5 years so that they can anticipate what might be coming. And then, of course, workforce data that includes talent data and other kinds of information about labor force. They want to see proximity to bus, to subway, parking, to universities, to major malls, and other major anchors in different areas, because that's where that information is going to pull them in. So just, an example here of a property report where people can do some analysis. You can drill down into that and do information for all the reports in the tabs at the top can actually be linked down to this specific property. Some other examples here just to show how easy it is to share this, the infographics. So you're making this data very visual for them. You're using heat maps to help them understand how much is being spent, in this case, on women's apparel inside a specific block group. This is in the state of Indiana on their application. And then here are some examples from Size Up LPI that I was talking about before. They went through a redesign about a year ago, and you can see mapping out competitors, customers, and suppliers. If you're able to provide this kind of interactive website on web data on your website, then you'll have your retailers in your area coming to you to be able to search for this information. And it's graphical, it's visual, it's easy to see, it's got these benchmarks that help them make that understanding. They could play around by inputting different kinds of data to see what impact that might actually have on their business. Very practical and very useful tool. And I'll be sharing the slide deck with you. You see that these are all hyperlinks that can take you over to take a look at what that live site looks like. So let's think about show and tell, what that actually means. It's supporting the work that you're doing for your area retailers. I've got some great examples of things that different economic developers have been doing to support their local businesses. So if they're using, in this case, Zoom Business, I have some different examples of what that looks like on social. So this was on Twitter for Pasadena, EDC in Texas, Columbia Economic Development in South Carolina, using Facebook to be able to reach out to businesses in the community and show that they have this tool, the Zoom Business tool, to help consumers connect with those businesses. Important. Rowan EDC in North Carolina, they were trying to communicate with the small businesses themselves to help them understand the value they're providing so that they would list their businesses, and also to let consumers know that the businesses are open and doing a lot of promotion in different ways. That whole shop local, buy local, the importance of keeping their spending dollars at home. Fayette, Georgia did a really interesting job by partnering with the local newspaper, which is really important. The newspaper relies on these local retailers for their ad revenue, so they've got very significant interest in making sure that they stay alive and open and healthy. So they went over to the newspaper and made sure that they put a link front and center on the newspaper that they would be able to share that information. Greater Springfield, Ohio Chamber of Commerce doing a lot of really interesting active work during the pandemic to support local small businesses. And this is just an example of outreach to the businesses themselves, but also outreach to consumers. Some other interesting things that we've seen are videos, podcasts, webinars that different communities are doing to be able to communicate with others and communicate both their value proposition, but also the things that are happening in different retail sectors. So lots of creative things that can be actually done to communicate this to people, because it's one thing to have all these resources, and it's another thing to be able to let people know that they're there. Otherwise, of course, they're not going to come. Resources for retailers, another really important one, where you're putting that often we're seeing with economic development organizations having now dedicated spaces on their pages on their website with programs for businesses, whether those are state, federal, provincial, local, things that might be done with rent assistance. We know that small businesses tend to be debt averse. They don't want to take new loans, but if there are wage subsidy programs or other kinds of small business assistance, having the economic development organization or the Chamber of Commerce become a clearinghouse for this information is extremely valuable. So they can turn to you to always see what is the information that they need to know, and how can you help them make sense of those things. Just some other examples of data charts and maps that I've got over there. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this other to show how easy it is to be able to drill down both to the area, but also to the specific sector itself within that area. I'd like to just close off here with just a few words about online spaces and how you, as an economic development organization, a community organization, or a chamber of commerce, can assist your local businesses in these places online. Often they don't have, rarely will they have marketing or comms people. They're doing this on their own. Small business retailers are 22% more likely than average LinkedIn members to network with other professionals. They're 25% more likely to learn about what other colleagues or other businesses are doing on using LinkedIn. They tend to be 38% more connected on average than other people on LinkedIn, and they've averaged 87% more company follows. So while we don't always think of LinkedIn as the space for small and medium-sized businesses, in fact, that's a really fertile and useful space for them. And it's something that you want to think about. If your organization has, as it should, a LinkedIn company page, then you want to do a lot of outreach to those small and medium-sized business owners, but to the companies themselves. You want to follow their pages as directors and economic development officers and Chamber of Commerce professionals, so that you get a sense of what's happening for them. You want to engage, help them amplify their posts, help them connect with you. When it comes to Facebook, we know that Facebook users are spread across more demographics. It's the most widely used program for small and medium-sized businesses and the owners, managers. And of course, we know the workers in these companies are likely to have a Facebook presence, which isn't always the case with LinkedIn. So it's another place for your organization. If you have a Facebook page, this is where you are also going to want to be connecting with your local small and medium-sized retailers. Sorry, I'm going to take a step back here. I just had some examples from LinkedIn company page, just a few thoughts for yourself, but also to help the small businesses in your area understand that they should have keyword optimized descriptions, that their website URL should be on that page, and then that you can, of course, regularly promote local companies, promote them, repost, just different kinds of examples. And so I have a few screenshots here of different economic development organizations and their LinkedIn pages. And just different ways that can be then used to promote them. And here is some example from LinkedIn of the city of Scottsdale talking about workforce and looking for business locations, promoting tools that they're able to offer. Airports, they're kind of emptier places now than they used to be, but reminding people as the pandemic lessens and business resumes, how important it is to, in terms of investment potential, that these were very important places for people to come and go. Another great example here from Detroit Regional Partnership was using LinkedIn to have featured properties. The link there will take it back to the property report in their Zoom Prospector tool, so that people who are interested in finding information can go through there to do that. On LinkedIn, you can also feature your own moderated group. This is a place where you can help, you can control membership, you can moderate things, help businesses connect with each other, promote each other, create synergies, and crowdsource ideas. Just a great place for engagement, and it's something that you can offer as a kind of virtual space when people can't gather in person. You can do a similar thing on Facebook, of course, Facebook groups and also Facebook pages for your chamber, for your economic development organization. we know that particularly for consumer-based retailers, that they often, especially the smaller ones, more likely to be here on Facebook. And during the pandemic, again, when people can't get together, having this as a place for connection, information, engagement, we have definitely seen an increase in interest in shopping local and a willingness, even sometimes if that's slightly more expensive, to spend money in your own community. So Facebook is a great place to help them, to help amplify their posts, to help connect them with you, and to help promote them in those different spaces. An example here from Columbia, South Carolina, Facebook page where they're looking at promoting a new business that just opened and what they do. There's a news release on their webpage, a link back to their to the company or the business's website. And then of course, you see below, they're also doing some workforce workshops and discussions that they are trying to, it's all about engagement. That's really what's happening. Here's a great example. Some few final words about social commerce. Definitely helping small retailers think big when they have to be as creative as possible to reach out to people. The power of influencers, of online sales, the importance of reviews, blogs, vlogs, and these social channels are just absolutely critical spaces right now. They're likely to remain very important even after the pandemic ebbs. We know that Snapchat, just a few other ones, is a great place to attract the under 25s. It's visual. Instagram, obviously very image focused. In fact, all of these ones are, at a place where you'll find social influencers. Pinterest has actually exploded in popularity again with the pandemic. It's image-based, heavily skewed towards women, depending on what retailer target markets are. And TikTok has emerged as just a key place for trends, for influencing, and a place for reaching younger consumers as well. So if you see a meme or something pop up and you're not entirely sure where it's come from or what it's about, chances are it emerged for the first time on TikTok and then spread outwards. So I think that brings us to the last thing, which is really just how do we reach these younger millennials, the Gen X, the startups? These youthpreneurs are less likely to know about economic development organizations. They just don't know that you exist. They don't necessarily know about the Chamber of Commerce, or else they might, think of you as sort of redundant and or not interesting or not related to them. So doing that kind of outreach is so critical. You can't wait for them to come to you. And these young entrepreneurs, they're online. There's no question about it. So you want to schedule when the pandemic allows for it, in-person, face-to-face meetups at local coffee shops or bars or parks or whatever you can do safely. And then as things become safer, we can do that in person, indoors as well. And then finding them in the virtual spaces that they inhabit. They're on TikTok, they're in groups, they're in Instagram, they're in Snapchat stories, they're producing YouTube videos, doing your research and then doing outreach to them to interest them in what it is that you offer them. I know we've gone slightly over time here. However, I would love to hear if you have any questions. Feel free to put that into the chat. I'll stay online for a few more minutes. As I said, I've recorded this and I'll be reaching out to you tomorrow with a link to the video recording, but also to see if there's any additional questions. You can certainly reach us in that way. You have my contact information here on the screen. Feel free to reach out with any questions you might have. Feel free to follow us online as well. We're looking forward to connecting with you in different spaces. Thank you very much for the work you are doing for your community and to keep people safe, but to keep your local retailers vibrant and healthy. And we appreciate that. We appreciate your time. And since I don't see any questions coming up here, I will thank you again and look forward to connecting in different ways. Be well and have a great day. Bye-bye.